News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook can keep her job for now. The Supreme Court has refused to let President Trump immediately fire Cook in a case that tested the central bank's independence from the White House. Bloomberg's David Weston says Cook still has a battle ahead.
This does not mean necessarily that they won't go back down to the lower courts and actually make the charge that she's not qualified and prevail. It doesn't mean that she's out of the woods yet, but it certainly sort of takes care of the Trump administration's arguments.
Voting 5-4, the High Court said Cook can stay in her job while she fights Trump's bid to oust her. Cook released a statement saying she is grateful for the decision for the sake of political independence of the central bank. Now, along those lines, the Supreme Court also decided that the president can fire some top government officials in a decision that will expand the power of the Oval Office. The ruling lets President Trump fire Democratic Federal Trade Commission member Rebecca Kelly Slaughter, despite a law that says commissioners can be removed only for specified reasons. Bloomberg's Michael McKee.
Their decision is that although it is up to the Senate to decide whether to confirm those with whom the president would prefer to work, neither Congress nor the courts may saddle him with those with whom he cannot work.
The 6-3 decision overturns a 1935 precedent, laying the legal groundwork for the modern administrative state. President Trump called this one a big win on social media. In his words, confirming presidential power to remove executive branch officers and agency appointees or representatives under Article 2. Now, the Supreme Court also ruled that mail-in ballots can be counted after Election Day, preserving grace periods in 30 states. Justice Amy Coney Barrett and Chief Justice John Roberts joined the court's liberals in the majority. President Trump called that a tremendous loss and urged Congress to pass the Save America Act, which changes how Americans register to vote and enforces voter roll purges. The Supreme Court also agreed to decide whether Arizona can require proof of U.S. citizenship when people use a state-designed form to register to vote. The court will also consider whether federal law requires Arizona to stop purging its suspected non-citizens from voter rolls once the election is 90 days away. A ruling upholding the proof of citizenship requirement could spur other states to enact similar rules in advance of the 2028 election. The justices also left intact a jury's finding that President Trump sexually abused and then defamed E. Jean Carroll, allowing her to collect $5 million in damages. The justices refused to hear Trump's appeal. The verdict is one of two Carroll won against President Trump, who has indicated he'll seek Supreme Court review of an $83 million award in a separate defamation suit. And the president says on social media, Iran has requested a meeting with U.S. counterparts. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner will be flying to Doha for high-level meetings this week. But Iranian officials say there is no such meeting scheduled. Bloomberg opinion columnist Mark Champion says free navigation through the strait has become a major sticking point.
The outcome of the war, in essence, is that that Iran gained a piece of leverage it did not have before the war. It proved to be very effective. The Iranians, always had that in their back pocket as a threat to make in case the U.S. attacked, Israel attacked directly in the kind of war that we've seen. But they never knew exactly how well it would work. They found out that it works very well.
Mark Champion covers the Middle East for Bloomberg Opinion. Shares of Comcast are about 7% higher on plans to split its media and technology companies into separate publicly traded companies. Bloomberg's Dan Curtis reports.
NBC Universal and Sky will be spun off into a publicly traded company called NBC Universal. The separation is expected to be completed in about 1 year, and Comcast shareholders will own shares of both Comcast and NBC Universal when it's spun off.
Bloomberg's Dan Curtis reports NBC Universal will hold the theme parks division, Universal Film and Television Studios, NBC and Telemundo Networks, Peacock, and Bravo, as well as the European media business Sky. The remaining Comcast will hold the company's broadband, wireless, and cable TV businesses. And a rally in tech giants lifting stocks at this hour. We check markets for you all day long here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 up 0.8%, NASDAQ up 1.4%, and the Dow Dow up not quite 0.5%. The 10-year Treasury yield at 4.37% and the 2-year yield at 4.11%. WTI crude oil now at $71 a barrel. Brent crude right at $73 a barrel. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris, and this is Bloomberg.